In this world, you gotta play a role because innocent people die left and right. It's either stay in school or we're fighting for our life. Never get a chance to decide. All we do is pay the price. The homies on the corner selling drugs, playing dice. Father going, I stand tall. One day it's gonna be alright. Everybody say they here for you, but not there on the lonely nights. That's again when I told myself how to live it right. Used to be a bad kid, all I knew was fight. Got all the things changed, a lot of things I sacrificed. Where I'm from, people die from being nice. Gave too many people chances, they don't know what being nice. They're looking down on them, don't know what it's like to walk in our shoes. Cops killing us every night. If you had a chance to say what's wrong, what would you do to make it right? Take some time to decide, because you can't do it twice. This is me saying I want to do whatever so nobody will live this life. 3, 2, 1.
As a community, we are engaged in a united struggle to overcome the social, political, economic, educational, and spiritual inequities which threaten to destroy us as a people. We recognize that as young people, we are one of the greatest resources available to the survival of our community. Therefore, we stand ready and willing and hereby pledge our commitment to rebuild and improve the quality of life in our community through collective work, responsibility, and cooperative economics, to educate, elevate, and raise the consciousness of ourselves and others along the way, to develop our potential as leaders and positive role models so we can proactively pursue justice, equality, and peace for all. All this we do with the appreciation, love, dignity, respect, that the collective will of the community is the greatest force to people lead.
Thank you. Nice. Thank you.
Nice. Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay. So, welcome everyone. I think it's really important, first of all, that you know where you are. We are meeting, having this event today in the Gay Bar Room, which this is the James Brown African American Room, which was named after a wonderful librarian who worked here in the Newark Public Library to bring African American culture and history here to the Newark Public Library. And if you don't know that, you'll be in this room and you won't know the spirit of the person after whom this room was named. Because there's another James Brown, we love him too, but we want you to know who the Newark James Brown was. So welcome everyone, my name is Antoinette Richardson, I'm Chief Education Officer in Mayor Baraka's Education Office, and we welcome Lead Charter School here today. This fireside chat with Mayor Baraka is brought to you by the Mayor's Book Club, and in celebration of Malcolm X's 95th birthday, Malcolm X's autobiography is the fall selection for the Mayor's Book Club. That means that the autobiography of Malcolm X is available at all of our branch libraries and the main library here, free to keep for anyone who lives or works or studies in the city of Newark. So, I want to acknowledge everyone who worked so hard to make today happen. The staff at Lead Charter School and Opportunity Youth Network. We have Robert Clark here with us, Mark Comasanas, Bilal Walker, and other staff. The staff at the Newark Public Library, especially Tyson Haley. The communication departments of the City of Newark and the Newark Public Library, Shaki Larkins and Jennifer Fanu from the Mayor's Education Office. And now, we will have greetings from the director of the Newark Public Library, Jocelyn Dixon, who is a wonderful partner with the Mayor's Book Club. Ms. Dixon?
There you go.
Good morning. I'm on. Good morning. Welcome. I'm Jocelyn Bowling Dixon, and I'm so glad you all are here. Thank you to the mayor and the mayor's office, to Antoinette Richardson, our library board member, for selecting the library as a site to have this wonderful conversation. Students, please don't forget that we are a resource to you. We've been open since September 8th, and we also have a lot of online things for you, especially college prep, things that you really want to check out. So check us out at npl.org. Also wanted just to say a big shout out to the library staff that helped put this together. We've been just running and racing and making sure everything is right, and I really appreciate your efforts. So big shout out to Tyson Haley, Diego Quintero, Craig Lyons, Kirsten, Eric, Jonathan, for helping us put this together on the library's end, and getting the wonderful James Brown African American room together. And on that note, I won't keep you too long. You're not here to hear me talk, so let's start this conversation. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So Malcolm X is a name that's known to many, known to everyone, but not too many people do what you guys have done, which is take the time to read, to study, and to learn more about someone who, although he passed away over 55 years ago, is a name that still resonates with us and ideas that we still talk about and struggle with. And everything that he did in his time was during the civil rights movement, with all the things that you've heard about that happened, the good things and the bad, the violence and the organizing. So we want to just remember that that was then, this is now, some things are different, some things are the same. And we're left with that real catchy title to a speech, The Ballot or the Bullet. Kind of tricky, makes you think a lot. And here to talk to you about all of that and more today is our mayor, the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, the Honorable Raz J. Baraka.
So first, I just want to say thank you. I'm glad that you and your principal and the folks allowed you to be a part of this. And I might have listened to The Ballot or Bullet when I was young 1,000 times. You know, you can hear it too. I've never really read the speech, but I heard it. And so you get a different kind of feel from it. Are you reading the autobiography of Malcolm X? How many of you got the book, Autobiography of Malcolm X? None of you have the book? We gotta make sure you get the book. You heard of Malcolm, you know who Malcolm X is though, right?
Yes.
You know Malcolm X. Just a little context before we get into this speech, you know. Malcolm was born in Omaha, in Nebraska, you know. When I first saw Malcolm X, I wasn't alive, but when I first saw and heard him speak, was on a video, a documentary called Eyes on the Prize. You should check that out. Eyes on the Prize is a very enlightening and deep kind of, it's a series, so it's long, but it's not boring. I watched the documentary when I was like 17, so if I could watch it at that age, because it was really, really, really engaging, and the stuff that was going on in there is like, it's different than what you hear about what happened in the civil rights movement and the Black Power movement and all those things after that. If you watch the Eyes on the Prize, it gives you a clear picture of what, and you can actually see what was going on. So you should check that out when you get a chance. And I read the autobiography of Malcolm X when I was in college. So hopefully you'll get to read it before you go to college and get an understanding of what that was. And Malcolm X went through a lot of things that I think some of you are going through. And he went through it took it all the way to its logical end, which means he wound up in jail, right? He grew up, he found his way to Harlem and was involved in the Harlem underworld, right? And, you know, he finally got arrested and did time and then joined the Nation of Islam in jail. You know, the one thing I know about the 60s, you have to understand, you know, both Kennedys were killed, John F. Kennedy and his brother, which came later, Malcolm X and Martin Luther King was killed in the 60s. So it was a very volatile time period that we're talking about. It's a very volatile time period. Not just like people being abused by police that was happening and that's happening now, but leaders that was trying to represent black people were also being killed, right? So that puts something else on top of it, right? And so you gotta understand the mindset of the people and what was going on at that time. Malcolm X's father was a part of an organization or was affiliated with an organization called the Universal Negro Improvement Association with Marcus Garvey. And you probably should read Marcus Garvey and check out Marcus Garvey too. You know, he was killed when Malcolm was young. But you'll read that in the autobiography of Malcolm X, and you should probably read that. But I want to start in a very basic way, right? Did you like listening or reading the speech, Ballot or the Bullet? Did you like it?
Yes.
Somebody tell me why they liked it. Anybody?
I can go.
Go ahead.
The reason why I liked it, because, like, he really was putting his thought in, he was really putting his thought in his story, and I can relate to that because many of us go through the struggles in the city of Newark, and we all persevere and push through our obstacles. So by him, like, telling how he was back then, I really appreciate that.
Anybody else?
It kind of resonated with me just off the ideal perspective of black nationalism.
Right.
Us being together as a community. That's where it really resonated with me.
I'm gonna come back to that. Go ahead.
I liked it because, like, we all know history repeating itself right now, so a lot of us can relate to it, all the protesting and voting, stuff like that.
What is black nationalism? What is that? Because that was like a theme in the speech, you think? You agree that's a theme in the speech? That it reoccurred over and over again, the idea of black nationalism? What is that?
The power of us being black to come together as a community and not even in the case just uphold each other, but support each other.
To support each other. You think that happens now, that we support each other or don't support you? You think that happens now? That we
In
support
some
each
cases it do.
Go ahead, you first.
I don't really feel as though like we support each other to the fullest.
Uh-huh.
I feel like blacks turn against blacks sometimes.
Can you elaborate on what she's saying?
Basically, she was saying how blacks turning against blacks, meaning like there's like obstacles in which black people do. Like, say for example, if I have a business and then he has a business and he making more money than me, then I'm gonna be mad and want to take down what he got just by being jealous.
I feel as though like the black community, like we help each other to a certain extent, but our problem is like we can't put our pride to the side. Like we gotta feel it's just the instinct that we have, and we don't know how to like control it. It's like a leadership instinct that we have, and we don't put it in the right place at the right times, and we don't know how to use it. You feel me? For the right things.
So we fighting for leadership or in charge?
We're
to
in
be
charge. Like everybody
Yeah.
want to be that. They want to have that boss spot. You feel me? But everybody can't have that spot. Everybody got to play their role.
Martin Luther King called it the drum major instinct. We want to be in the front, like, you know, the drum major that's what he called it, the drum major instinct. But I think that happens in many communities, actually. I want to get really into the specifics of why we believe and what's causing black people to feel specifically a certain way about one another. Yeah.
It's like everybody feel like they're in competition with each other. So like, who gonna get to the top? So like, personally, me, I feel like everybody at each other's neck because they're not as a community. Everybody's for self. So it's like everybody trying to fight to the top instead of let's get this together, let's build this together as a team. But everybody want their own. So it's like everybody at each other's necks to get to the top. But not noticing that you knocking down your own black businesses, not trying to work together. So how we gonna build and improve if we all battling each other?
That sounds like capitalism. But do you think that black people support black businesses, period, before you even get into
No.
people competing with each
I
other?
think they do.
Huh?
I think they support, like black people support other people's businesses, like black people businesses.
Like when? Name a business you think people support.
Clothing brands,
Like what?
Trap Park, like it's a
Huh?
clothing brand called Trap Park. They support it. With anything that you do, like if you're a rapper coming from Newark and you black, everybody gonna support you. It don't matter.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like that support there, but it's just hatred overpowered. You feel me?
Say that, I don't
The
understand what you
hatred
mean.
overpowered.
Yeah, what do you mean by that?
Like just people don't want to see you winning. Like it just they like it when it first start off, but once they see like you could really go somewhere with it, that's when that hatred start to show up. You feel me? And it overpower the love. Negative always overpower the positive, even if it's a little bit of it. You feel me?
I don't know about that one. I'm gonna have to get back to that, the negative overpowering the positive. Go ahead.
Nah, I disagree because, like, I'll give you an example. Like, if it's a Puerto Rican store and it's a black store that come before it, people will walk right past and go to that Puerto Rican store and spend the money there instead of spending it with the black owner. Or even like clothes, like you said, clothes. Like, for example, somebody walk past an up-and-coming store that's black owned and go shop at Gucci, Louis Vuitton, all that. So I disagree.
I mean, everybody different. Everybody don't do that. You feel me? Some people, most people do that. You right. I agree with him.
Anybody else want to jump on that? Do we support businesses that are, so if there was a sneaker store, like look at all of the clothes you got on that all of us are wearing, right? The pocketbooks you buy, all of the stuff that you have, and when you go to the supermarket, all of those other kind of things, right? Do you think that if there was a store that sold the same stuff that Nike sold, that was owned by African Americans, would we shop there instead of Nike?
Yes, I would.
Yeah, you would. I would too. But in a general sense, do you think that that would be the case?
No.
I personally believe no.
Why?
Just because, like, to kind of go back into what Najee was saying, what he was kind of saying was, people don't want to see you doing better than them.
Right.
So us as a community, we have a hard time of seeing our people winning, and not just like in an instance of winning, but being better people. So if I'm the person, in the case like you're saying, owning the sneaker store,
Right.
before this sneaker store even gets to where I want it to be, 9 times out of 10, because of the way my community is set up, I done had an attempt about 3, maybe even not even just 3, but 2, 3 times where this store has tried to be robbed. And we don't look at that as the bigger picture, but it kind of is. It goes into what he's saying, where it's like we don't appreciate it until it's gone, and then we'll kind of say, "Oh, but now I want it back." But when it was there and we had it, it was treated like kind of nonchalantly, and we picked the predecessors over it, like where we go into like the corner stores. We'll see Arabian or a Puerto Rican in the store, and then we'll go right down the street and see another store which is black owned. But because these, in the case Puerto Ricans and not just, I wouldn't say indigenous people, but the people that are not native to our community, well they are, but the community is based around African Americans. So when they kind of come in and they take up the profits that we're kind of supposed to be earning, we kind of lose traction in our money. So now it's kind of looked at as us going into the store, and because you sell this for $1, I have to sell it for $1.50 now. And that was kind of pushing us back as a community instead of pushing us forward, because the people that are in front of us are already taking what we had.
So you're saying the prices in our community are a little higher. I mean, and our stores have to be a little higher than the other store.
Yes.
And so that's what causes people to go to their store, because we have to sell it at a different price.
Yes.
And we have to sell it at a different price because people don't support us, or we just like...
No, just basically, well, I learned this from personal knowledge. I just believe it's just like a form of tax evasion, because we pay $1 for this, and because it's everywhere as $1, when we bring it to our community, it's $1.25. So we're making an extra little bump off profit.
Well, everything that you sell, you're selling it so you can make profit, right?
Yes.
Right, so when you buy it from a wholesaler and you sell it at a price, you're making a profit for yourself. So you're saying they're making more profit. We're trying to make more profit than everybody else is making. I'm just trying to be clear on what you're saying.
To kind of sustain our needs, in essence.
I want you to think about that and tell me, and I'm going to come back to you about why that's the case. Like, just think about it for a minute about why you're saying that's the case. And Malcolm's speech is a little different than what we're talking about, right? So when he starts talking about black nationalism, he's not really getting involved in a very specific kind of cultural differences that you guys are talking about now, right? You're talking about some cultural differences that exist in our community, which speaks to the kind of nationalism Malcolm was talking about. And I'm going to ask that question later, because later he said something about going to the United Nations. Did you get to that part of it? Where he said that we should take our issues to the United Nations? Did you hear that in his speech?
It was at the end.
At the end, he started saying we should take it to the United Nations. Our plea to the United Nations. Why did he say, why do you think he brought up the United Nations? And I'm going to come back, but I just want to put that in your mind so we can move the discussion a little bit. So why did he speak of the United Nations, saying we should bring our case, our issues to the United Nations? Do you know why? Do you know what the United Nations is?
No.
Okay, there's an international body of nations that meet, that come together, that convenes and deals with world issues, right? So there's a world court that's in the United Nations, right? They talk about the relationships that countries have with one another. And they're like superpowers, or, you know, it's interesting they call them superpowers, like superheroes. Bigger nations that have more authority or run in the United Nations. But many countries around the world are members of the United Nations, and you get to bring your issues to the World Court. So he in his speech, he started talking about countries that did that brought their issues to the World Court, right? They brought it to the United Nations to hear about the problems that was happening in their country. So right now, there might be countries that are engaging in abuse to their citizens, right now. It might be a country that's engaging in abuse to the citizens, and the citizens or organizations take that to the United Nations, right? And so the United Nations can make a decision about what's going on specifically in that country. And then sometimes the UN sends troops. You ever heard of the UN troops, the United Nations troops? They send troops to specific nations to solve problems or even deliver food or medicine or vaccine or different things like that. And sometimes to engage in protecting individuals, right? Is a peacekeeping force, right? United Nations have that. So that's the context. So why would Malcolm say we should bring our issues to the World Court? Go ahead.
I feel like he said that because, well, still now, like, our government is failing us. They're not behind us. They're against us. They're supposed to protect us, and they're doing the opposite. They're killing us off. So I think that's why he said that.
And so why doesn't he just want to bring it to the U.S. government to solve our problems?
You said, why don't he?
Yeah, why don't he want to bring it to the U.S. government?
Because he feel like nothing really not going to be done. Like, it's just going to be swept under the rug. Like, they're going to make it seem like they're going to do something about it, and they really not. Like, it's just going to drag over and over and over. So you want to go over them to try to get some type of solution.
So you got the Republicans and the Democrats. Why don't he go to the Democrats and say this is what they're doing, or the Republicans and say this is what they're doing, right? Why don't he do that?
Because they know what they're doing and it's not working. Like, they see what's going on. And if they was going to do something to begin with, they would have did it. That's why he want to go to like a higher up to get a better result.
And that's what you think Malcolm was saying, that it doesn't work here, so we need to go to a higher body.
Right.
Do you think that's something effective, or you think that Malcolm was mistaken in that? It's your opinion.
He was probably mistaken in that because this speech was from years ago. So I'm pretty sure he would have been acted on it by now, and it's still the same things happening. So obviously that was not a good solution.
So let me back up. So you saying, what I'm saying is, do you think Malcolm was right in saying that we should go to the United Nations?
Probably at that time.
Okay. Do anybody agree that it should happen now? Or you don't think that, you think we get our problem solved, without going to the United Nations? Or have any problems been solved since before we go to the United Nations? Go ahead.
Personally, I feel like we could, as a community, if we come together to fix the problems, like that's really big. As a community, if we come really together, it won't be as much as a problem. We could get bigger stuff done than going to the head.
I think it starts here first.
What's that?
It starts here first, like with us as a people.
Okay. Who agree with that? Okay. So we don't think that the United Nations would be a good move for us today?
It would, but we saying like we should start with ourselves before going to them.
Okay. And what would you do?
Small steps like we doing now.
Huh?
Small steps like we doing now. Like we coming together right now. You
Okay.
having a conversation, talking like small steps like that. It'll lead to bigger steps, even if it seems like it's moving slow to begin with, because it's always gonna start out slow. It's gonna start picking up.
Okay.
Well, I feel like us citizens, I think we should all have a voice within ourselves because once our voice gets to the office, they not really listening to our voices. They not really hearing what we have to say. So voting is really like a big thing. Like that's a big thing, a part of our community because our voices need to be heard now. We don't gotta wait to them for them to give us our voices and stuff like that. We got our own voices. We got our personal beliefs. We got our own personal way how we feel. And as they say, we got justice and freedom. So they need to respect that as a community. So as citizens, we should say what we gotta say before it gets to the office because they not really listening and respecting our voices as they should be. As they claim and as they put on TV and advertise stuff just to get the community together. No, that's not how it happened. It comes within us.
Anybody want to add to that or disagree with her? Anybody disagrees with her?
Not at all.
Who you agree with her? Why you agree with her?
I agree with her because it does start within the community. I feel as though like doing what we're doing now, like as talking to you, I feel like if we do more things like this so we can try to get our point across, it will be better affected in our community.
So do you think voting matters, that it's important for people to vote?
Absolutely.
Of course.
Yeah, you think it's important? Do you think Malcolm was saying it was important in his speech?
In some context, yes.
What do you mean?
I mean, Malcolm was talking about voting, yes, but the things that he was also talking about was investing in our businesses as a black community.
Right.
And not just investing in just saying, oh, I'm gonna put this money in here. Us actually having a form of like a Black Wall Street where our lives are basically being, it's a word that I'm looking for,
Secure.
but we're flourishing as people, like as a community, as my peers are saying, but we're flourishing as a community instead of looking to an outlook.
You wanted to help him?
But no, I was helping him with the word that he needed.
Okay. So somebody tell me why voting matters now. Why does it matter? Since all of y'all jumped in and said it
Voting
matters.
matters now because, like, I feel like us citizens should pick and choose who we feel will be there to actually support our thoughts and our reasons. Because Donald Trump, he's not really supporting. He talk a good game in the office, but he's not really supporting our thoughts. Like I said earlier, we have the right to say what we want. So we need a leader of the country who's going to support our thoughts and our way of liberating things and not just putting stuff on advertisements just to get people to drawn in to what they got to say. I think they should actually listen to us. A president, even though they hiding us, but the citizens count as well. We play a big part in the president's role. They should listen to us as well. So I think that's a big part of playing a part and role.
And you think voting will make people listen to us?
I mean, yeah, if we choose the right president that we feel that really would serve and protect our country, of course.
Okay. Anybody else want to jump in there? No? Are y'all old enough to vote?
Yes.
Are you going to vote? Did you vote already? Are you registered?
Yes.
I registered, but I'm gonna wait till like, go in.
You're going to wait till what?
To go in, like.
Oh, when when you can
Yeah.
actually go there and vote?
Yeah.
You can do that now. It's just a provisional ballot. But why are you going to vote? Maybe I'm going to put it there. If you're going to vote, why are you going to do it? Why? You said you're going to vote, right? Only y'all two voter age? Anybody else? You going to vote? Okay. I want to hear what you're going to say too. Go ahead.
I believe our opinion matters, not just on the political aspect, but in the case of us picking our mayors, us picking our senators, it goes deeper than just, same thing like with the census, it goes deeper than just the political standpoint. This is, like in the case what they say with police, they're here to protect and serve us. In the case, they get paid to work for us.
Right?
So us as a community, we have to understand that the political aspect to the bigger mainstream is the external. Where it starts at is here. If we work and tell ourselves, you know what, I'm gonna work to not just become a better person, but to enlighten everyone that's in my community. That's the basic assets of becoming successful, the fastest that we implement, and where it goes into us being a community and where we're sitting here now coming to you. Because in a few years, I believe that somebody sitting right here could be something like a mayor, but this is where it goes into us being a community. We have to vote. And the same thing with a senator. There's probably a senator sitting somewhere in here, but we have to vote.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'll say now, like, we're in a predicament where we gotta really be specific who we choose and who we vote for, because Donald Trump, like she was saying, how he not really benefiting us that much, and other contestant or whatever, he raised the taxes. Me and my cousin was just looking at the news, and they said he raised the taxes to 60%. So we like had to sit back and like, oh, so now who we about to vote for? So like, I don't really understand how they both trying to mess us up. So who we gonna vote for? That's why I'm waiting.
Yeah.
To see who else, like what they got to give and offer us.
That's good. I mean, you should look deeper into the people you're voting for and making sure that you're doing it for the right reasons. You know, we run out of time?
No, we have a question that came in on the chat that I'd
Okay.
like to throw out. Is this a good time?
Good.
Okay, so the question that came in, we have two questions that came in, and these questions are from students. I'll give you both questions. First question, why is it Black Lives Matter rather than All Lives Matter? Does that lead to further segregation and less time working together with all races? And the second question is, how can we hold our leaders accountable other than just voting? So I think the first question then, why is it Black Lives Matter rather than All Lives Matter?
Anybody want to tackle that?
That's a good question, honestly. But in the case, all lives do matter, but until Black Lives Matter, all lives don't really matter. Because if I tell myself, in the case, these white lives matter, and in the case, my life doesn't matter, I can be basically brutally beaten. Somebody can just walk around and basically, because they're a police officer, and like I said in my previous, me coming into this, they're here to protect and serve us. But if they're beating us in a case going back to slavery, they're in a metaphorical way, it's slaving us, kind of putting a noose around our neck and making us feel the same feeling of slavery to push us back. So my answer to that would be all lives do matter, but until Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
I want to add on, I actually think that was a bad question because, like, Black Lives Matter is not the saying is being overthink. When really, we went through hell for over thousands of years now, you feel me? That shouldn't even be a question, like, should it be all lives matter or Black Lives Matter? When we went through more than any other race could imagine, you feel me? So I don't think that was a good question, and I think Black Lives Matter is good where it's at, not no all lives matter. We know what it meant, like, come on, now, all lives do matter, duh, but Black Lives Matter, like, what we going through now, Black lives is dropping at a rapid rate, you feel me? So, Black Lives Matter.
Hey, brother.
Like, that's a valid question because that's a protest to our protest. That's fair. And how can you say all lives matter when Black people are being blackballed in today's society?
Well, it makes people feel uncomfortable, right? When you say that. And then the question becomes, why do they feel uncomfortable? Malcolm made a lot of people feel uncomfortable. You could see that, right? The stuff that he was saying made a lot of people feel uncomfortable. Saying that, and this is not even extreme to the things that Malcolm was saying, right? Malcolm was saying some very tough stuff. So if people get uncomfortable with you saying you matter, then the question you should be The question is why. And then when you get into to the why of the question, then you'll figure out what the real issues are, right? Then you figure out. So I think you guys are right on the money. I want to go back to Malcolm talking about black nationalism. So I want to go there, right? Because I think that we really didn't get into it. And I want to talk about it because we started talking about people we see in our community, cultural differences that we see in our community today, right? We started veering off, talking about, I heard somebody say Puerto Ricans, I heard somebody say something else, and I want to get into that discussion, right? Because I want us to have some clarity. I think it's not responsible for me to allow you to say that without me clearing it up, right? I want to address it. And I think it needs to be addressed in our community because the stuff that Malcolm was talking about that's been affecting our community, I think the way you guys are talking and what you're saying is a symptom of the things that Malcolm was talking about, right? So I want to get into that just a tad bit. Yes?
Like, I could refer to Malcolm because we live in a community where Jews coming in to take our businesses. So, like, the houses that we supposed to be owning, they come over and take it. So it's like, you giving back to people that was against us. So it's like, as we refer to, we don't support us blacks, it's like, we could be realtors too, but you let people come over to your part and take over your spot. So it's like, what are we doing as a community to let them take over what's supposed to be ours? And it's like, we getting our property knocked down because they're coming over, and it's like, there is no equal rights at the end of the day. Because we living in somebody's house that didn't care about us back then, still don't. Because you got to please somebody that never wanted, that looked down on you. That used to probably be your owner, your grandparents, your ancestors' owners. And you sitting here still paying all this money, and when y'all could work as black people together to have your own businesses. And it's like, people don't really try as a team. Like, what I could say is, me and my mom, we go downtown, Penn Station, you know, our homeless people, we go feed them. Like I told my mom the other day, we could either knock down the abandoned houses or rebuild it. I said, we got construction in our school. People sign certificates. We could go fix them houses, help people. I said, because I remember one time I went down there, a homeless person said he needed help. Nobody wanted to help him. And I felt bad because that could have been us. Well, it was us. We was under slave owners. So it's like, get back to your community. That's what I mean. You support whites and Jews, but get back to your community. Not help these people that need help, because at a point in time, we didn't have nothing either, but we needed help from people too. So get back what you get.
So there's two things. That's why I want to go back to that discussion. There's two things I think that Malcolm was talking about here as well. You could support your community, right, without being against somebody else. You could support your community without being against somebody else, right? And I think the concept of black nationalism with this brother, what's your name again? Zakur. Was getting at was, how do we create our own businesses? How do we begin to develop our own community? How do we get to support those things? And then some of you guys hit on it too, and this brother too. How do we support that? And what's stopping us from supporting our own businesses as opposed to other people's businesses, right? What's responsible? What do you do to make sure your community is thriving, right? That you make a choice with your money. You make a choice with your actions. You make a choice when you go to the store. You're making a choice. You're making a conscious choice, right? When you buy something, you're making a choice, right? When you go get a box of cereal from the supermarket, you're making a choice of what cereal you want to support versus another cereal, right? Based on what you like, right? You're making a choice. So when you go to the store, you make a choice. I think Malcolm was talking about choosing yourself. Disagree with that? Huh?
No.
Okay. That you're choosing yourself. But I think you can do that without being against other people or identifying other people as being a problem for you, like the young lady was saying over there. Go ahead.
it's not like we against people. It's like we feel like people against us.
Right.
And it's like you don't even know us. You just judge us by our skin tone.
Right.
And it's like that's why people say, what about all lives? But what about our lives? We getting judged by our color every day. Like we read in school about should we protest peacefully or violently?
Right.
I feel like when we protest violent, y'all look at us like, oh, we crazy and stuff. When we protest with signs and words, we don't get hurt. We get abused, we get knocked down. So it's like, what y'all want us to be? You want us to be calm or rowdy?
Right. That's. Anybody agree with what she's saying?
Yes.
I
Definitely
agree.
with
Go
it.
ahead. Anybody want to add on to it? Go ahead.
I agree with what she's saying because say like the protests we had downtown, like that was a peaceful protest, but I don't feel as though like everybody's voice was heard. But then like going back to like how we had talked about in school, or do a peaceful protest or do a violent protest, I feel as though a violent protest isn't safe because we'll like be messing up our own community, like the say, how they riots and all of that.
Yeah.
But Sabrina over here, it wouldn't have been helpful because we would have been messing up our own black communities and stores that we have around the area.
I agree to both. I agree to like what both of them said because like when she talking about how Newark was doing peaceful, yeah, they was doing peaceful. But if you look at Minneapolis, they was over the top. They was burning down buildings. And if you look at that, you actually taking homes away from families that could be in need. You taking jobs away from people that need to feed their families. You got to think about stuff like that. So when you ask that, I thought of it like a pro and con situation. It's like it could be two answers. Me, I really think that peaceful protesting is right, but at the same time, I agree with what she said because like as we peaceful protesters, we not being heard. But as soon as we act in violence, oh, we want to make the news or we doing this, we doing that, and that's when justice comes in a type of manner. Like it wants to slowly comes our way when we doing violence. And I don't understand that.
We could be here right now talking to the mayor, right? And everybody over the world might see this. They might be like, yeah, them just black kids. And don't even watch it. Don't even hear what we're saying. So it's like, we really don't be heard. Still, as us being young, we still don't be heard.
Well, I want to tell you two things in history just to think about, because I'm not trying to, I'm trying to guide you. So make up your own mind. I want to guide you, right? So it's two specific things. So do you know the year the March on Washington took place?
Hey, what you said? What was
The
the
March
question?
on Washington.
The March on Washington?
Yeah.
I don't know the exact year.
You know what I'm talking about? The March on Washington, Martin Luther
heard
King.
of
They
it
always
before.
talk to us about it in school. Da, 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 da. Probably the only thing we learn about.
Yeah, I heard about it before.
Right? So it was 60, what? 1, 2, 3, 4? You think it was 1963?
I'm not too sure.
$1963. Be confident. After the March on Washington, there are two specific things that happened in this country that's very, very important, right? Very, very important. The public accommodations or the Civil Rights Bill was passed in 1964, right? Which basically destroyed segregation or Jim Crow in the South. Not factual segregation because we still segregate it, but legal segregation. Like nobody can't segregate you legally, right? At least places that are getting government funding. How about that? 1965, the Voting Rights Act, which is really was focusing on states that made these rules up. So when you go vote, which is a problem today, when you go vote, they made up things that stop you from voting, like poll taxes, right? Or literacy tests. So you go vote, you have to take a literacy test. And they ask you, name the 50 presidents of the United States or some crazy question like that that has nothing to do with your literacy, but has to do with your memory and your understanding of that. And then you don't pass it and you don't get to vote, right? So it dismantled all of that. Donald Trump was the first president to be elected since the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, where the Voting Rights Act was dismantled. right? He's been the first president since the dismantling, I should say, of the Voting Rights Act, right? Since it was knocked down, he's the first president that become president after they've dismantled the Voting Rights Act. So that's something just for you to think about. And don't listen to what I'm saying, right? Go read about it and get the information yourself. Go to the Newark Public Library on virtual, and you can check it out on the virtual Newark Public Library stuff. Go ahead. Right. Yep. And it's difficult when nobody taught you how to read, right? When it was illegal for you to go to school, all these other kind of things. So obviously, but the literacy test wasn't even that advanced, wasn't even that simple, right? They didn't tell you, here's a book, read it. It was more like, can you tell me the 50 presidents of the United States, or every capital of all the states in the Union, or, you know, all kind of crazy questions like that tried to deal with your literacy. And some people simply couldn't read, so it made it difficult. And today, the Voting Rights Act is broken. They tore it down. So a lot of states, immediately after it was gone, began to put in things that made it difficult for people to vote, and begin to, purge voter lists. So go check that out, right? Look at, you could even Google, you just type in voter suppression or Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act, and it'll give you a whole bunch of articles that you can read, so you can be clear on what's actually happening today versus what happened then. So there are, and I brought that up to just say that there have been times in history that mass protest and mass organization caused immediate change, right? Who knew there was a rebellion in Newark? Like there was that stuff happened that you see all over the country, that it happened in Newark at one time? You knew that? Like the stuff you see burning everywhere, they say everywhere it's burning. You know Newark, that happened in Newark? You say year, do you know what year that was?
No.
1967. 1967, right? 26, I believe, people were killed. 26. You know, you used to go, Springfield Avenue was a shopping district, like downtown, right? And you see Springfield Avenue now from Blum, 10th Street, all the way down to where New Community is. And it took us, how long do you think that mall been there that we just got? The supermarket and all the other stuff. That's a nice looking spot though, right? The supermarket and all that. How long do you think that's been there? That supermarket, the McDonald's, all that stuff. How long do you think it's been there? Huh?
5 years, right?
10 years?
4 or 5 years.
About 5 years. About 5 years. Exactly. Before that, it used to be what? A lot. A vacant lot. Do you remember in your mind what it was before that?
It was like mad, like rocks and stuff.
No, do you remember any building that was there in your lifetime? Guess what? I don't remember either. I'm older than you. That means it's been like that for what?
A long time.
Long time. And that's how long it took us to come back at least a little bit from that. 5 years. That's as long as that's been there. 5 years. So we still got a lot more to do on that block. Ain't that right? The bank just came down, all that stuff up and down there. We're still trying to develop that, right? Still recovering from that. So I just want to put that in your mind as well. Just want to put it in your mind. Do you think in Malcolm's speech, he was talking, we getting into a lot of ethnicities, right? Malcolm was basically talking about black people and what?
White people.
The white man.
Yeah, he was talking about white people, black people and white people. That's what he was talking about. Very, very general in those terms, right?
Yes.
That's what he was talking about in those terms. In those terms. And it probably was like that in those terms because of what was happening at the time, right? Very, very specific that he was talking about. And he talked about the ballot or the bullet. What does the ballot or the bullet mean in your mind? What does that mean in your mind? The ballot or the bullet? That's a heck of a title to put on a speech, right?
All right, so last night, just off personal. Last night I was watching a video about the Ballot of the Bullet, and Malcolm X made a good point. He said, Marcus Garvey said this. He said it's the same thing as liberation or death, basically saying freedom or the bullet.
You think that's what he was saying? Yeah? Why do you think that?
Because, like, what he mean by bullet is, like, it's death. Like, we either gonna get our freedom or we gonna fight for what we gonna get.
Anybody else?
Basically, he's saying, like, get it by any means necessary.
Get it by any means necessary.
So whatever you gotta do to get the job done, do it.
But is he telling you? Go ahead, brother. Go ahead. I don't want to jump you. Go ahead.
You mean like either vote, like either you're gonna vote and we're gonna get our freedom, or it's gonna turn into something else and it's gonna become violent.
Or it may become violent. Or it may become violent, right? Do you think there's violence out here now?
It's a whole lot of violence.
A whole lot.
Like what? What's the violence that's going on? That
Kids
you see?
killing each
Kids
other.
killing each other.
Huh? But and political violence, the stuff that you see that's going on. I'm gonna end with the us killing each other thing. But do you see any violence that's happening around the country? Is it violence happening around the country now based on inequality and people not getting their rights and all this stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the
George Floyd and everything that happened as a result of that. Anything else?
Breonna Taylor?
Breonna Taylor might be one, right?
Ahmaud Arbery.
Okay, Ahmaud Arbery, that's right, right? So, and the response to that has been, has it been a peaceful response to that?
No.
In some instances, but basically no. It's been really, really violent, right? It's been really violent. So either we're gonna get change or things are gonna get worse.
Yeah.
Or things are gonna get worse. Is that what you think?
Yes.
I want to end talking about us, period, because we get into the nationals. I want to talk about us, right? I want to talk about nobody else. I want to end talking about us, right? And the things that we see in our community, right? What are the negative things that you see in your community? Yes.
Okay, I live in Newark where there'd be a lot of stolen cars. Like my sister and my brother's car just got hit. They come 8 in the morning, just riding around, hitting cars. Like,
Okay.
what do you do? Like, what's the point of that?
Okay. Who's the victims of that?
Us, because we got to get our car fixed. How we getting to work? How we getting there?
Okay. Any other thing that you see that's happening in your community?
I see a lot of homeless people, and I feel as though, like, we could find, like, different programs and ways to help them. Like, I wouldn't suggest, like, giving money to them. I feel as though they just want a path where they can, like, you know,
Like, comfort and support?
yeah.
Okay.
So, like, they can have help to change their lifestyle around. Like, I don't feel as though, like, money is nothing. I just feel like they just want help in, like, different ways and programs they can join to get themselves together or stop taking drugs and stuff like that.
Can I add on?
Yeah, you can.
Like, as a school, we clean up our community. And that's just us that's just us. Like, and I feel like my school, these students I'll be around, I know that they are willing to do stuff like that. And I feel like our community should too.
Right.
So it's like, we could work as a team, get a couple people out here and there, just get them toothbrush, certain little things. Dollar Tree got toothbrush, help
100%.
people out. Because now what if you was down like them? You would want somebody to support you, help you, feed you, give you comfort. It's getting cold.
Right.
They old, they need comfort, they need heat.
Any of you guys, what do you think things that are happening in our community that's we victimizing each other? Go ahead.
Ask that question again.
Things that's happening in our community where you believe that we are the victims, that we're victimizing each other.
I feel like holding back resources, like you might know something that can help somebody else, but you just holding back because you don't want to pay everybody onto it.
Yeah.
Like that's a big thing, you feel me?
Okay. People
like-
hoarding stuff for themselves.
Yeah, that's a big one. But as in like things that we need as a community, I feel as though like we need things to put our time into. Because we all got spare time and idle time. So I think when you're bored, you do bad things. Idle time is the devil's play. So I feel like we need more activities, more mentors, and people that we could talk to, not just about like politics and things that's going around the neighborhood, like real personal stuff. You could really
Right.
talk to somebody that could really relate to you.
Right.
We need stuff like Big
Mentorship
Brother.
programs.
Yeah, mentorship programs, more activities, not just for us, but little kids that's younger than us too, and
Yeah.
kids that's our age too. We just need more activities and stuff to do, like right now.
Okay.
And you
I
got-
feel like those like there is programs out there, but don't nobody know about them.
Yeah, like holding back resources.
They're
That goes back to
holding
holding back resources.
That's
in the
that's what
cut.
this brother said. Yeah. Yeah.
I feel as though like, and we got a lot of like people that's talented and people that don't know their talent. So we need programs like where you can find your purpose, because that's a big thing in life. Because
Yeah.
if you're living, like what's the purpose? You need a purpose to live. So
Right.
I feel like we need programs
Yeah.
like that and like sports programs, because there's a lot of people good in sports. Like besides high school sports, we need like recreation, like stuff we could do on the side, like 7-7.
For sure.
Regular people like me, like you not really, you don't play for high school no much. You just want to play sports, you know? Stuff like that.
I feel as though like some people from my experience, like I seen people that was in North playing for schools and they was really nice. They could have went far, but they had fell like to the trap, to the streets. All cause one of their homies died and they want to get payback, getting locked up. Now their whole career is gone.
I feel like people
Because they
need a second
got
chance.
pulled into the streets.
Yeah, pulled into it.
They start trapping. It's interesting that it's called the trap, right?
I apologize, but I want to piggyback off what
Go ahead.
you was saying. We was just having a conversation maybe 30 minutes prior before you came in about this same topic, which is the trap.
That's right.
You taking a risk, but really thinking about it. When you think about it, and my point, what I wanted to go into was just us poisoning the community, but now we're talking about this. And I
No, that's
believe
right.
this-
Go into what you were
this-
going to go into.
This is like, it's a real primitive problem. It's the problem of, like in the case where Malcolm X was talking about, the ballot or the bullet, because in the case, that we might not understand it, but that's the bullet. When we decide to take the trap and then we get mad because we trapped ourselves. It's no taking risks, it's just a mouse trap. If you get caught in a mouse trap, there's no getting out. You're done.
Well, mice try to avoid traps, right? We walking into them. And anybody else want to add to that? I want to tell you about a story, real life, and try to bring us to some semblance. Two things, actually. The first one is two psychologists, right? Kenneth and Mamie Clark, right? You should, Newark Public Library, Kenneth and Mamie Clark. Google Kenneth and Mamie Clark, right? Who heard of Brown versus Board of Education? Brown versus Board of Education, right? Brown versus Board of Education helped us do what to schools?
Desegregate schools.
That's right, desegregate schools, 100%. 1954, desegregate schools. That's what it, even though schools are still segregated, you think your school's segregated?
My school is personally not segregated.
Okay, what school you go to?
I go to Lee Charter School.
Okay. When you say it's not segregated, what's the majority of the people in the school?
African American.
What's the percentage of it?
If I'm not mistaken, we cover about 50%, maybe even more.
Okay, what's the other percent?
The other percent would be something Latino, if not
Okay.
Latino, just
How many
other-
white people go to your school? How many white people go to your school?
0, maybe 1%.
So it's still segregated. So Brown versus Board of Education was supposed to desegregate schools. They won the case because they used a study that was done by Kenneth and Mamie Clark called the Doll Study. You heard of the Doll Study?
Yeah.
You heard of the Doll Study? Tell me about it.
Basically, like, he's putting dolls in front of kids or whatever. That's what you're talking about, right? When they was putting dolls in front of the kids?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so basically they was putting the dolls in front of the kids, and one doll was white, and the other one was black, and they was basically asking them, all right, which one you want? And all the black kids was picking the white one.
Yes. But it gets deeper than that. So they were picking a white doll, but they also asked them which doll was ugly. They asked them which doll was ugly. And what doll did they pick?
The black one.
Black one, of course.
Deeper than that, they said which doll was bad. Bad. And what doll did they pick?
Black one.
Now then it goes even deeper. It goes deep. We're going even further down. Which doll? Before I go all the way down, one more level. Which doll do you prefer to play with?
The little girls.
And which one did they pick?
Black one.
Which one they would prefer to play with?
Oh, the white girl.
They
White
preferred to play with the white doll. Now here's all the way at the bottom. Which doll looks like you? The black doll. So they were clear that the black doll looked like them, right? But they also said the black doll was what? Ugly. And what else? Bad. So they internalized hatred.
Because of our color.
They internalized hatred, right? Am I wrong? Am I saying something wrong?
No.
Who disagrees with me? Do you think that that's relevant today? Do we internalize hatred today?
Yes.
People still racist. Like,
I'll go.
Go ahead.
Like, I feel what you're saying, like internalizing, like you feel like hatred towards yourself and you don't even know it. Like, girls want to look like somebody else, like they see on TV, like, oh, the black girl ugly, let me look like the white girl, put makeup on, cover up how I really look and look lighter.
Yeah.
That's really happening, and they're not doing it. They're doing it like not realizing what they're doing.
Subconsciously.
Subconsciously, right?
I also feel like it's not even just being about races. It's how our community and our environment is molding us young people. If we hearing we bad or we this, we that, we're gonna take that in. It's like that's more like a mental problem. It's like what you hear around is what you're gonna grow up off. So it's like
That's
really
100%
taking
right.
like as we grow up, we molding as we think, oh, black people ain't gonna be nothing, this, that, and the third. And white people, they grow up, they gonna be doctors and stuff like that. They hearing better environment than how we hearing. So I don't think it's like a racist part. It's more like how us young people is growing up and being molded inside of the community.
So they made a relationship between the feeling that these kids had towards themselves to education and segregated educational systems that taught people specifically different things and allowed them to see themselves differently in society, right? And that was causing a kind of psychological self-hatred, right? And so segregated schools had to be dissolved because there's a sense of inferiority that people get in a society that tells them black is bad. Good.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, we've been brainwashed, like, we basically programmed and we don't know it.
And so black also gets to be color, like the actual color, like darker versus light. And that happens in all of our communities, right? So that it even permeates all the way down there. And I think that that's some of the stuff that Malcolm was talking about with nationalism, right? Trying to bring everybody together that's in that spectrum. And guess who else is in that spectrum? Who?
Puerto Ricans, like Dominican, they all black, they all black.
You said that, not me. That's the difference between where we started and where we ended, right? Right? They're also in that spectrum.
Yeah, they face the same problems we do. Not all, but most. Because our community, they here with us.
Right. What language do you speak?
English.
English.
You from England?
No.
How you get to speak English?
Learn.
Huh? But why you speak English? Why you don't speak French? Why wasn't you born speaking
They
Spanish?
basically say we learn English
Huh?
from the. They say we learn English from the British.
You said what?
They say we learn English from the British, but I don't believe that.
You learned English from the British? It's American history, right? Check that out. Why do Puerto Ricans speak Spanish?
Because, well, not. I can't speak for Puerto Ricans,
Are
but
Puerto
like I
Rican-
could speak
are
for
Puerto Ricans-
Dominicans. 'Cause,
Listen,
like,
are Puerto Ricans from Spain?
No. That's just the language they speak.
Something else that y'all need to get into further.
They was enslaved by people from Spain. That's why they speak Spanish.
Say that again?
They was enslaved by people from Spain. That's why they speak Spanish.
And in America, the people who enslaved, who dominated in America, spoke what?
English.
Huh?
English.
English.
The people who took over spoke English.
Yeah, people took over. Right. Spoke English. That's right. So I just want you to be clear on that. I wanted to come back to that because I heard that, and y'all came back to it without me telling you. You came back to it on your own because you know it already. You know it already. I don't want you to be confused. I want you to understand where you are, because when Malcolm was talking about nationalism, there's a lot of people that can fit in that. Right? There's a lot of people that can fit in that. And I don't want you to exclude them. I don't want you to exclude them. Right? And then, I mean, let's end with this part. Do you agree with everything that was said in the ballot or the bullet? Let's start there. And we end right there. Do you agree with everything that was said? It's okay if you agree or disagree. It's not my job to tell you to agree or disagree. It's my job to make sure you're clear.
I agree, but I don't necessarily agree with everything that he kind of promoted.
Okay.
Which was saying the understanding of community building, us having economic and social, not even just inequity, but just having that principle installed in the brain, where if this is my brother, no matter if it's my blood or not, if I'm looking to help you, then if I'm helping you, we can help him.
Right.
Where it goes into where he started like basically calling the white man Uncle Tom, and basing his opinion on basically how he needed to take us back to the primitive land, and then he started going into basically like the great Elijah Muhammad, what Elijah Muhammad was speaking on. That's where he kind of lost me at. But the basis of the ballot and the bullet and voting, and like I said, being like the community, the economic, the social, and basically like just spiritual, the same thing that we learned in our philosophy, the same thing that we just said to you.
Yeah.
Is basically, in a case, I wouldn't say it's contradiction from what he's saying, but when he started going into talking about the Uncle Toms and things like that, it kind of made it feel like, all right, this is not the community aspect that we're having a conversation about now.
Okay, I get what you're saying. He was saying come together, but was attacking some leaders at the same time. Okay, that's a good point. Anybody else? One more. No more? Y'all brilliant kids, you know that, right? You guys are sharp. You need to get some more, get information, but guess what? Your generation has access to more information than any other generation in the history of this planet. And you got access to it in multiple languages. You can put up an article and push translate, and it'll translate it for you. You ever check that out? That bugs me out on the computer. I get on the computer, like I said, say push translate, and it translate for me. I grew up in the time period we didn't have all this stuff. I had Walkmans. I didn't have all that other kind of stuff you guys got. I had to put a cassette tape in and push a button. Y'all got all kind of stuff going on, man. I'm taking advantage of it. I want to tell you a last story about a trap, because that's what you talked about, and I want to tell you this. And I'm not going to elaborate or nothing. I just want to tell you this story, and then I want to get out of here because I got to go somewhere else, right? Is this guy, he's a speaker. His name is Amari Yetzatelli, right? He was giving a speech, and he talked about hunters in the Arctic, right? And how they hunt wolves in the Arctic, right? Wolves are dangerous animals, right? So how they hunt wolves. So what they did was they use a double-edged sword. They use a double-edged sword. And they take one part of the blade and they stick it in the ice. They stick it in the ice. And they leave the other part of the blade protruding out of the ice, right? Then they put blood on the blade. They put blood on the blade. And the wolf, when he gets hungry, smells the blood, right? And so the wolf, in smelling the blood, goes to the blade and he starts licking the blade. He starts licking the blade. So while he's licking the blade, licking the blood, he's cutting his tongue, right? So at some point, he begins to drink his own blood. because he's licking and licking and licking, and he's bleeding and bleeding and licking. And then ultimately, he dies. He kills himself, right? So the hunter actually uses what the wolf desires or needs to entrap them, to kill them, the wolf, right? Just something that you should listen to, you know, get you to think about before we walk out of here, you know what I mean? Get you to think about, add that to them, and read the autobiography of Malcolm X. It'll give you a better understanding of what Malcolm was talking about when he was talking about the Ballot of Bullet, and more important, why he was talking about it. That's always the most important question, why? Why leads you to more whys, the more whys, the more whys, the more whys, and the more you answer these whys, the more brilliant you become, because why gives you the foundation of what people are saying and what they're doing. You get an understanding of it. Always ask why. So I thank y'all, man. You helped me out more than you helped yourselves, I think. So God bless y'all. Have a great day.
Thank you, Mayor.